Hello, this is Forest of Oak, Lesson 20, Herbalism and Wild Crafting. Mother Nature provides us with a huge host of medicinal and magical plants. Pretty much every plant in the wild or in your garden has magical properties. A lot of them have medicinal uses too, not all, and please double check before ingesting any plants, as some of them might be poisonous. Let's go over some basics of herbalism first. Only buy or harvest what you need. If you are gathering your herbs in the wild or from your garden, only take what you need, leave enough on the plant for it to survive. Herbs do not keep forever, so don't have huge stocks. Even dried herbs don't last indefinitely. Storage. If you are drying your own herbs or if you have purchased them dried, keep them in a cool place out of sunlight. Dark glass jars are the best form of storage vessel. If you dry your own herbs, make sure you do so correctly so that they don't rot, and make sure they are properly labelled with the plant name and the date you collected them. From the wild. If you do forage in the wild, please make sure you can correctly identify the plant that you are harvesting, or the results could be disastrous. Please also make sure that the plant you're intending to harvest from is not protected or endangered. Do make sure you only take a little of the plant and leave enough for it to survive properly. Make sure the plant is not near any fields that have been sprayed with pesticides or near car fumes. Ethical wild crafting. Before we go any further, I would like to just mention here, for any items, whether they are seeds, buds, sticks or feathers, try to use items that have been gifted rather than plucking feathers from a live bird, which would probably be difficult and dangerous, and use sticks and leaves that have fallen to the ground, rather than cutting them from a tree or plant. Ethical wild crafting is the practice of harvesting plants and trees conscientiously to avoid damaging the health of the plant population or the overall ecological system. With seeds and fruits, maybe just leave an offering in place. Ask the plant first if it's okay for you to harvest the fruits and leaves, and please don't take more than you need. Leave enough for others, for animals and birds, and in the case of seeds, for the plant to reseed itself. Make sure to only take a small amount and leave enough of the plant in situ so that it can continue to grow. Please also note that some plants in the wild are protected and even on the verge of extinction. Ingesting. I cannot reiterate this enough. If you are intending to ingest the herb or plant you've just collected, please make sure you've identified it correctly and that it is not harmful in any way. Safety. Please do not give herbal mixtures to pregnant women, babies or young children unless you are 100% sure it is safe for them to use. Herbs are considered to be safe because they are natural. However, whilst they are safer than many chemical medicines, this is only true if they are used properly. Inappropriate use of some herbs could be dangerous. This includes combining them with prescription medicines or using them to treat a serious illness without consulting a doctor. Some may not be used in pregnancy, some herbs cannot be used in combination with aspirin, and some herbs irritate the stomach. Some herbs should not be used for children under 11 years of age. Illness. If the illness you are tending to treat with herbal remedies is major, please get a professional diagnosis and let your practitioner know what remedies you intend to take. Some herbal remedies can react badly to modern medicines. Cleanliness. When preparing herbal remedies, please keep everything spotless. Your work surfaces, jars you keep the herbs in, your hands, and any utensils that you use. If you are intending to make and use herbal remedies, it is advisable to have at least a basic understanding of the human body and how it works. This will enable you to distinguish symptoms common to an illness and to know when to refer to a conventional practitioner. Magical herbs. Every plant, seed, flower, herb, tree, pebble, stone, seashell, in fact, all living and natural items have an energy to them. Some see it as an individual energy for each item, a character, or a personality, if you like. Some see it as a spirit that resides within the natural item. However you see it, this energy is specific to each item, so that each plant will have its own unique energy, and every single shell on the beach will have its own special energy too. We can tap into that energy and connect with the spirit of the natural item to gain insight, wisdom, and even healing. Just remember to ask first, because some of them can be a bit shy or grumpy. Some may not want to work with you or at all. In those situations, just thank the plant, tree, and leave it be. Mother Nature wants to help you and is happy to share whatever energy you need. Just remember to be polite. You can use herbs as part of your spell work. Candle spells. Crush dried herbs and spices, dress the candle with a little oil, and then roll the candle in the herbs. Or, as you light the candle, sprinkle some of the herbs over the top. Poppets. Use herbs and spices to stuff inside poppets. Medicine bags. Add herbs and spices to your medicine bag or crush finely and use to feed them. Incense. Herbs, plants and spices can be all used in incense. Offerings. Used crushed herbs as offerings to deity. Also in witches' bottles, magic powders. The list of uses for magical herbs is endless, really. Before you use herbs in any spell work, you will need to enchant them, to charge them with your intent and increase the effectiveness of the herb. You should charge the herbs just before you're about to use them to make sure the energy is fresh and at its strongest. If you are using more than one herb in a spell, you can charge all the herbs together or do them individually. The choice is yours. So how do you enchant it? Hold the herb in your hand or put it in a clean bowl and hold the bowl in both your hands. Calm and center yourself, and then reach out with your senses to pick up the vibrations of the herb. Then place your power hand either just over the herb or touching it. Visualize your intent and then send this energy into the herb. You can also say a chant at this point too, if you wish. Some common herbs and their magical uses. Lemon balm, love, success and healing. Basil, love, exorcism. Wealth, flying and protection. Bay, protection, psychic powers, healing, purification, strength. Birch, protection, exorcism, purification. Camellia, riches. Carnation, protection, strength and healing. Cinnamon, spirituality, success, healing, power, psychic powers, lust and love. Dandelion, divination, wishes, calling spirits. Fennel, protection, healing and purification. Ivy, protection and healing. Lavender, love, protection. Sleep, chastity. Longevity, purification, happiness and peace. Marjoram, protection, love, happiness, health and money. Mint, money, lust, healing, travel, exorcism, protection. Nettle, exorcism, protection, healing and lust. Parsley, lust, protection, purification. Poppy, fertility, love, sleep, money, luck and invisibility. Rose, love, psychic powers, healing, love, divination, luck and protection. Rosemary, protection, love, lust, mental powers, exorcism, purification, healing and sleep. And sage, immortality, wishes, longevity, wisdom and again protection. Harvesting and drying your own herbs. If you are picking flowers or plants for magical workings, then here is a basic guide. If you can collect fallen flowers, seeds, twigs, etc., then even better, because the plant is already done with them. But if you want to remove them directly from the plant, always be careful not to damage the plant itself and only take what you need, leave enough of the plant left to continue growing, and always ask permission from the plant first. As a rule of thumb, if you can see where you have been harvesting, then you have taken too much. Use a sharp knife or cutters. Blunt blades leave jagged edges, which can leave the plant open to infection. Don't harvest when wet, as the moisture will allow molds to form. Flowers. It is usually best to pick flowers when the bud is fully open and cut the stalk at the first leaf joint. If possible, pick them in the morning before the sun gets too hot. To dry them, lay them out on a kitchen towel in a warm, dry place. I put them on trays in the conservatory. Once dried, store them in a dark glass jar with a detailed label, what they are, and the date you harvested them. The dark glass prevents fading from sunlight. Seeds. Seed harvesting should be done on a dry day. You don't want to take home seed heads that are all soggy from the rain, because they will probably go mouldy. Once seed pods have changed from green to brown and can be easily split, you can begin collecting the flower seeds. Cut the pod or seed head from the stalk and pop it into a paper bag. Or you can hang seed heads on stalks upside down with a paper bag tied around to catch the seeds. Bark. You can successfully harvest small amounts of bark directly from the tree. Birch trees in particular lend themselves to this practice without suffering too much. But, and here's a thing, I can never bring myself to strip bark directly from a tree. I do, however, pick up pieces of fallen bark or strip bark from branches that have been removed by forest wardens or that perhaps a storm has knocked down. If you don't harvest bark properly, you can kill the tree. If you want to give it a try, it is best to only do so in the autumn when the tree is starting to prepare for winter and is drawing all of its energy into the call. Depending on how much bark you need, you can just shave a little piece directly from the tree or cut a small branch off and use the bark from that. But please do your research first. Identify the type of tree, as there are different methods for different trees. Google should be able to help you with the finer details. Roots. To harvest roots from a plant, first check that it is a healthy looking plant and that you've identified it correctly. Some people find the largest plant, or what they call the grandmother plant, and ask permission to harvest some roots. If the answer comes back as a yes, then you can harvest one or two of the smaller plants that surround the grandmother. Roots are best gathered in spring or early autumn, although I personally think autumn is best because the plant has been allowed to grow, flower, and spread seed over the summer. Dig the plant out carefully, and if possible, just trim pieces of the root from the ends and then pop the plant back into the earth. If this isn't possible, then please make sure there are plenty of others from the species growing in the surrounding areas. Once you get them home, wash off as much soil as you can, then dry them well. To dry roots out, I find that chopping them into smaller pieces works best, then laying them out on a flat tray and putting them in a dry, dark place. When they are completely dried, they will feel dry to the touch, but still be slightly spongy. Store in dark glass jars with detailed labels. Leaves. If you are harvesting herbs, then it is best to pick them in the morning and either tie them into bundles and hang them up or lay them out separately on trays in a dark, dry place. Leaving them in sunshine fades the colour. For plant leaves such as trees or wild plants, you can look in the autumn for fallen leaves, which will already be dry, or you can pick them directly from the plant or tree. Be careful not to tear or rip them from the plant, Just gently pluck each one, then lay them out to dry. For a lot of the fresh green plant leaves, they usually keep their colour and dry better if you harvest them directly from the plant or tree in the spring. Again, store in dark glass jars as sunlight can fade them. Berries. Now these are a bit trickier to dry. With something like a blackberry, you are probably better picking them ripe and eating them straight away, or they freeze well. If you want to use blackberry magical workings, then go for the petals of the flower or the leaves. Leave the fruit for yummy puddings. However, berries from the hawthorn, for instance, are much easier to dry. Pick them ripe, thread them onto a string using a needle, then hang them up to dry. To dry bunches of herbs, wash them and dry, then tie the stems in a bundle and hang upside down in a warm, dark place. You can cover them in a brown bag. Leave for about 2 to 4 weeks. I use this method for herbs such as rosemary and bay. It works best with herbs that don't have a high moisture content. For individual leaves or smaller herbs, lay them on a tray and keep in a warm, dark place. I use this method for rose petals or sometimes thyme if it's small stems. If you need herbs to be dried quicker, put them in an oven on a baking tray at around 180 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 to 4 hours. Or use the microwave, putting the clean herbs on a kitchen towel for 1 to 3 minutes, turning them over every 30 seconds. To store dried herbs, I prefer to use dark brown glass jars with airtight lids. Keeping the light out extends their life. Herbal tea. This is one of the most easiest ways to make an herbal remedy. You can use the leaves and or the flowers of a plant for tea. Use a glass or ceramic pot or cup to infuse the herb. Use 1 or 2 teaspoons of the herb. Pour on hot water and brew for at least 5 minutes and then strain. You can drink it warm or chill it and drink it with ice. It can also be used as a mouthwash, gargle or hair rinse, though it only keeps for a maximum of about 24 hours. Decoction. This is a good way to use plant bark, berries and roots. Chop fresh or dried herb and simmer in water for about 20 minutes. Strain and then drink. This can also be used as a mouthwash or a gargle. Again, only keep for a maximum of about 48 hours for this one. Use 1 heaped teaspoon of chopped herb material to about 1.5 cups of water. Tincture. These are made by macerating, which means soaking chopped herbs from any part of the plant to an alcohol solution. Sometimes vinegar or glycerol is used instead of alcohol. The ration of herb to water and alcohol will determine the strength of the tincture, but the most common ratio is 1 part herb to 3 parts water and alcohol. The proportion of alcohol varies from 25% to 90%. Tinctures do have a long shelf life, but usually take at least a week to prepare. Place the chopped herb material in a clean, preferably sterilised jar, and stir in the required amount of alcohol. For each 4 ounces of dried herb material, add half a pint of alcohol solution. Stir, then close with a lid, leave for 10 days, and make sure to shake the jar every day. After 10 days, strain and put into a clean bottle. Vodka is the preferred alcohol to use, but I have successfully used whiskey too. Fresh plant material needs a 40% alcohol solution. Dried plant material can be made with 25% alcohol. If it is below 25%, the tincture may decay. To freeze herbs, wash and blanch, then drop into ice water and place in bags or ice cube trays and freeze. This works well with moisture-dense herbs such as basil, chives and parsley. To make a herb vinegar, cover herbs in white vinegar and steep for 4 to 6 weeks in bottles. For herb butter, add 4 tablespoons of dried herbs and a squeeze of lemon juice to half a pound of softened butter. For herb mustard, mix 2 tablespoons of dry mustard, the same amount of salt, and a teaspoon of sugar mixed to a paste with vinegar, split into 4 and mixed with 1 tablespoon of herbs. Herbs also work well in potpourri. Start with a base of rose petals and lavender, then add whatever dried herbs you like. Add whole cloves or cinnamon. Add benzoin to fix, then store in an airtight jar for 4 to 5 weeks, and then it's ready. You can also make lavender sugar. Add dried lavender heads to a jar of sugar. It's wonderful to use in cookie or cake recipes. You can also use the stems of lavender on the fire to make your home smell. Hot infused oil is only used externally. You need to put your fresh herbs in a jar and cover with oil, olive, almond, or sunflower. Put the jar in a saucepan of water up to its neck and bring the water to simmer for 3 hours. Then strain into a brown glass bottle. Cold infused oils are made in a similar way, but instead of heating in a saucepan of water, you could put the jar on a sunny windowsill instead. An ointment covers and protects the skin. A good base for an ointment is petroleum jelly or beeswax pellets. The jelly or wax is melted into a double boiler and herbs are added, simmered until they are crisp, and strained into jars. A cream is made from oil, beeswax, and water, and this penetrates the skin. Melt 1 ounce of beeswax in a double boiler, add 1 cup of olive oil, and mix. Add 2 ounces of your chosen herbs. If it's too thick, add a small amount of water and mix. Simmer for 20 minutes, stirring. Add a drop of benzoin to preserve, and then strain into sterilised jars. There follows on the lesson PDF a wild garden meditation. And there is also a link to a YouTube guided meditation. Homework. Work garden meditation and document your experience. 2. Go outside with your camera and notebook or journal. Find at least 3 plants and take photos or make drawings. Please share your pictures and drawings with us. Research the plants and share your findings. 3. For this lesson, you will need to work through the Herbal Pathways or Magical Herbs branch class. Contact your mentor for the first lesson. Homework for each lesson should be emailed to your mentor, Ness or Heather, support@kitchenwitchhearth.net. And for further study, there is the Kitchen Witch YouTube playlist, Nature, Rachel's YouTube playlist, Magical Herbs and Plants, and there is a Kitchen Witch blog tab, Herbs and Plants.